Without further ado, we'd like to welcome Joe O'Connor with the Kroger Company and Paul Pedersen with Polymer Logistics to the stage.
So the Cleanpal pallet, first of all, the Cleanpal, what is it? It's nothing new, first of all. Nestable pallets have been around a long time. However, what the engineers in the R&D department at Polymer Logistics did was created something new out of something old. And it was very interesting, it was very novel. I wish to death I had thought of it, but the engineers were very clever and did something that I could never have thought of in a million years. What are the main differences? So the big one obviously is space. You can fit up to 2/3 more nestables in the same area or in the same truckload by switching to a nestable pallet. We all know this. You can also have a lot better damage rates. There's no stringers to break underneath, so the damage rates are much lower. So overall, as an efficiency standpoint, that is going to be better overall. And of course the weight. So typical block pallets or GMA regular wood pallets are up to 50, 60, even 65 or 70 pounds, extremely heavy. The Cleanpal is only 27 pounds, so quite light in comparison. Plus, as you can see, we also engineered handholds and we engineered specific things to make it more ergonomic and easier to move and easier to use. The actual case study we did, I'll let Joe talk about a little bit of that, and that is coming up right here.
Right, and this is really where we started to realize that everybody could gain value in this. And I think this is to what Tim spoke about earlier of designing value into a product, is where we understood we weren't trading one thing for the other. We recognized that the egg supplier could have benefit, Polymer would be more integrated into them, be able to offer them better service. Our DCs are going to be able to handle something easier, and our stores are going to be able to get the product that they expect. So it took some commitment on our end. So our DCs were not prepared to take a nestable pallet, and that's probably the first thing that's coming to mind, and say, hey, something had to happen here, and we did. We had to share in the investment of time and money and figure out, all right, how do we get our DCs to be able to handle these? And so we took a look at where all do we put our eggs. How well are we aligned within our distribution centers by our commodities? Where are they being mixed? What happens right before Easter or baking season? You know, what happens in those peak times of year? Can we keep controls around that process? And we had to do a little bit of digging on our end to make sure that it would happen and say, this is a way we can take advantage of the benefits of the stackability, of the weight, of all the reasons, and the interstocks with the RPC to say, this is something we need to do, and a great partnership that we formed in figuring out how do we get our DCs to be able to handle this. And so figuring out all of those different slots, what type of racking we had to make sure that it could handle that nestable pallet and be able to do it in a very safe way and get all of those other benefits that come along with steel mesh racking that you get along with that. This was our push to get into that realm. You want to talk a little bit about some of the testing you did at Midwest Poultry?
Mm-hmm. So Midwest Poultry was our guinea pig, so to speak, and they had a lot of really interesting ways they used the pallet. So they had already used both plastic and wood pallets. They prefer plastic just because they're a clean facility, but what they found that they really, really enjoyed with the Cleanpal was twofold. The first thing obviously was the interlock deck. It was very, very useful to them, and they even moved things around without wrap or headbands or straps or anything of any kind. You can see the second one on the top to the right, there's a guy named Mark. He's moving those things around. They moved the pallet with no straps, no wrap, anything like that, via forklift onto conveyors, just like it is. One simple piece of tape around the top was all they care about and all they use. It was a big deal for them because they saved about 26 cents per pallet in nothing but straps and corner boards that way. So obviously when you do several 100,000 pallets a year, that is a significant amount. The other piece that they really, really liked was the uniformity of the pallet. Because the Cleanpal is one injection molded pallet, it's the same uniform standard every time. It has the same dimensions every time. So Midwest Poultry is a very heavily automated facility. Most of their packing and most of their standardized work is done by robots and machines. With a different pallet, it took 2.5 days to not only calibrate, but fix that machine to work with a different pallet. With the Cleanpal pallet, it took them just over 2 hours to calibrate the same machine. The reason for that is the uniformity of the pallet, the same dimension, the same standardized footprint every single time. So the next part of the puzzle was the DC. So Midwest Poultry and the producer loved it. The DC, what's the next step? As Joe said, the DCs are not prepared to accept and rack or put above level any nestable pallet. So we developed a partnership in order to put mesh decking and put it up there so that could be allowed. The differences were, it seems subtle, it seems like not a big deal, but it actually is an extremely big deal for several reasons. Not only, and Joe can go into this as well, but not only for safety reasons, putting mesh up into a rackable solution and a rack network or scaffolding is inherently way safer. You won't have falling pallets, you won't have liabilities that way, so there are benefits from that account, from safety, but also for speed. You can see some of these forklift guys, and if you've ever been to a DC, they zip around like crazy. The Cleanpal underneath and on the underside has an innovation that's not really appreciated as much to us, but if you're an order selector, you can zip around really quickly because underneath there's rubber grommets that actually grip the metal forks on a forklift or a pallet jack. So Joe, plug your ears, they can speed around and not worry about taking corners really fast and go a lot more efficiently and a lot better and a lot quicker. So it is a real benefit for the DCs because they're faster and they're better. The differences in space are huge. As Joe or any of us in business can attest, a square foot in a DC is very expensive. When you triple the amount of square footage in your DC, prospectively, with this pallet versus traditional pallets, you're a very happy person. With this pallet, it is a big shift, both in ease of use, in weight differences, in some of these systems. And we call it a system for a reason. Joe mentioned it. Polymer likes to use a moniker or use a phrase, we are a smart retail solutions provider. And to my knowledge, this is the only pallet that is a system. You think of a pallet as a pallet. It's not really just a pallet. I guess if you take it home and make a chicken coop out of it, you could call it a system, but this is different. This actually marries an RPC to a mode of transport and to a level that, or a platform that is more efficient and more economical and more useful than anything we've ever had in markets. So using the Cleanpal really does create something that is a smart retail solution, not only for the supplier or for the DC or for retail, but back again for people like poolers or providers like ourselves, because it is just inherently better, inherently more efficient, and more cost savings for everyone involved. All right. So in summary, what the Cleanpal does is it creates more efficient supply chains. It is lighter. It is more ergonomic than traditional pallets. It is more efficient because if you can pay for less pallet material or packaging material per pound of product, it'll save for the retailer and it'll save for the end consumer. It also is more durable because there's no stringers on the bottom to break. It's more efficient in that respect. And it's more economical, of course, through transport, through savings in storage, and through other modes of transport as well. And it's more capable.
Yeah, it's really been a win across the board, I think, for all of us. And we had several design changes early on. We said this is what's going to work, and I think it allowed us to step back and figure out what this new solution could look like that for a long time we had thought of as just another platform, and how we really harness that and make it a lot more seamless transition. And it's been a very successful execution of that up to this point.
Thank you very much.